Equipment 2.0 system is back on the sandbox test server for us to check out with its second iteration, and this time Wargaming did not lie, it was indeed the first iteration we tested previously, because this time they actually went through a lot of changes with this new equipment system, and in this episode I am going to let you know everything you need to know about this version of the equipment, the improved version most likely. Maybe they're going back, maybe they're going to do something else, we'll see, only time will tell. If I have any more information, of course, my friends, I am going to keep you posted, but we have a lot of things to cover, so let's dive right into the action while you are enjoying some version 4 and complete bully ramming build setup. It was actually quite a ridiculous combination what I was able to do in the previous version, where it had firepower, where it had survivability and one universal slot available. I boosted the engine power, I used heavy spoiliner, and you are able to see what kind of mayhem I was able to cause with version 4. So you, my friend, wherever you are in the world, please enjoy that. While I talk about changes to the slot categories, for example, because they actually did something quite drastic over here. They removed one categorized slot from every single tier 6 to tier 10 vehicle. As we remember previously on Mouse, for example, we had two survivability slots, or on version 4 the vehicle you were watching on the background had mobility and firepower categorized slot, and the third one was universal. But now we have only one categorized slot, and they did it based on the vehicle type as well. For example, heavy tanks, survivability, medium tanks, mobility, light tanks, scouting, tank destroyers and SPGs are going to receive firepower category. Second and the third slot are universal, you're able to use whatever you want over there, and none of those things give you any bonuses. What do you think about that? In my opinion, it makes the entire system a lot easier. That's number one thing. You do not have to worry about, you do not have to think about too many crazy meta builds, theory crafted builds people come up with using those or trying to maximize those slot categories, which in my opinion, as I said, it makes it simpler, a lot more simple, but at the same time a lot more boring as well, if I may say so. Because I really did like to come up with some crazy builds trying to maximize those slots, even when it didn't make sense, for example, but it was still fun. So only one slot category, which means in the two universal slots, improved equipment units, bounty equipment units become more and more relevant and more value. They give more and more value for you. For example, the improved counter-hammer, improved ventilation, both are so much better even if you use the standard ones in the correct slot. Now, there is actually one more thing I would like them to test out. Let me know what you think about that idea, ladies and gentlemen, in the comments, please too, because I already had that idea while we were testing the first iteration of the sandbox a couple of weeks ago, and the stream really liked it. But let me know what you think about that. What if they go back to the previous version where we have two slots categorized, but slot number 1 is based on the vehicle class like we have at the moment. Heavy tanks get survivability, medium tanks get mobility or firepower, I don't know. Light tanks, scouting, tank destroyers, firepower. Based on the vehicle type, slot 1 categorized, but it is mandatory at the same time, which means you have to use that type of equipment unit in that slot. You are not able to use whatever you want, as we were able to do previously. Then second slot is once again categorized, but this time you are free to use whatever you want. If you want to get a bonus, you have to use the correct equipment unit in that slot. For example, heavy tank, slot number 1, which is mandatory survivability, and secondary mobility or firepower, but you are able to use whatever you want. If you want to get the bonus, use the correct equipment unit. And finally, slot 3 is universal, as we previously had. So this version simply would have one categorized slot based on the vehicle class, and you have to use that type of equipment unit in that slot. Would that be more interesting? Would that be something you would dig? Please let me know in the comments down below, my friends. Moving on, next up, let's talk about the changes in equipment compatibility and bonuses, because they actually did go ahead and change some equipment units we already had. For example, venting system. In the previous sandbox version, the standard venting system gave you 5%, and if you use that in the correct slot, which venting system had many, firepower, mobility, scouting for example, it gave you 6.5%, but now the improved bonus only gives 6%. They lowered that value. Firepower improved aiming unit. New standard bonus, starting bonus 7%. Previously it was 5%. So they increased the standard bonus. Survivability spawn liner, all tier 5 and higher vehicles are able to carry that now. They didn't change anything else according to one of those lists at least. Mobility, additional cruisers. That one was actually quite impressive. In the sandbox version, previous sandbox version, it boosted your hull traverse speed by 5% or 7.5% if used in the correct slot, or acceleration by 5% and 7.5%. But now, the standard stock, if you use that in universal or in the wrong slot, 10% and acceleration 7.5%, and hull traverse up to 15% if used in the mobility slot, and acceleration up to 10%. That actually makes quite a huge difference, ladies and gentlemen. Now this additional cruisers may become a lot more relevant on many vehicles. I can already think like 10 vehicles from the top of my head who really badly suffer from bad hull rotation speed. Scouting, camouflage net, now all tier 2 and higher vehicles are able to carry that. SPGs and heavy tanks 5%, light tanks and medium tanks get 10% bonus, and tanks destroyers get 15% bonus. And new improved bonuses 7.5, 12.5 and 17, so basically 2% extra if used in the correct slot. This is Camonet. Many players wanted to know the reason why they were not able to use that on vehicles that they were able to use that before, like light tanks for example, but now here is the change. Low noise exhaust system also received a little tweak. All tier 2 and higher vehicles are able to get it. SPGs and heavy tanks, the standard bonus if used whatever, basically 3%, light tanks and medium tanks 7%, camo and tank destroyers 5% camo, and it was moved up to 4% on SPGs and heavy tanks, 9% on medium tanks and 6% on tank destroyers. And next up, yet another equipment unit. Many players wanted to know why they are not able to use anymore on certain vehicle classes, but now all tier 2 and higher light, medium and heavy tanks, tank destroyers and SPGs are able to use that. Unavailable still for wheeled vehicles. And finally, coated optics. All tier 2 and higher vehicles are able to use it in the scouting slot, or this is the slot where you get the bonus from. And next up, let's take a look at the changes to the new types of equipment units introduced with Equipment 2.0. First up, improved rotation mechanism with firepower or mobility tag actually. So changes, bonuses have been reduced for both standard and improved equipment. Increased the hull and turret traverse speed. Dispersion reduction is now similar to the stabilizer equipment effect. Tier 5 and higher vehicles are able to carry that. So this equipment unit reduces gun dispersion during hull rotation, increases hull and turret traverse speed for vehicles with turrets, increasing the hull and gun traverse speed for vehicles with a stationary cabins, so non-turret tank destroyers for example, reduces gun dispersion during movement and during hull and turret traverse as well. Next up, improved hardening in the survivability tag. Changes increase the standard equipment bonus, so the standard slot bonus, so if you use that in the universal slot for example. All 5 effects from enhanced suspension have been added with 1 increased bonus for standard equipment. The cost will be 40,000, 200,000 and 600,000. 600,000. I think previously maybe it was 500,000, something like that. Or maybe they did change some other prices, but those are the changes at least mentioned by Wargaming. Next up, we have completely new, improved configuration under the survivability. So that actually gives quite a lot of things. That accelerates repairs, increases the durability of the ammo rack, fuel tank and engine, reduces the loading time penalty and loss of engine power upon the damaging of the corresponding modules, reduces the chance of engine fire, prevents one fuel tank fire, ammo rack explosion or engine destruction in one battle upon the destruction of the corresponding module. So this is the effect tag right over there. Quite a lot of things. Price is 200,000 for Class 2 and 600,000 for the most expensive vehicles. All tier 5 and higher tanks are able to carry that. And this one is actually quite a big thing they did over here. They got rid of, I think, 4 equipment units in total, and they combined that into this one improved configuration. That basically combines a cyclone filter, which we previously had, wet ammo rack, field tanks with CO2, toolbox as well, equipment units into one, and you get all those bonuses, which is quite crazy thing. Now next up, one of my favorite equipment units introduced with equipment 2.0, turbocharger, and over here bonuses have been reduced for both standard and improved equipment. As you can see, the engine power values, but at the same time they added additional forward transmission and additional reverse transmission equipment units into this one, so they fused a new turbocharger together, because now you can see it increases engine power and top speed at the same time. Previously it improved engine power by 10% and 15% if you use that in the right slot, if I remember correctly from the top of my head, but now you get the speed boost as well. You do not have to use those separately, which is really big thing in my opinion. Now, improved radio set bonuses have been reduced for both standard and improved equipment units, but the effect of jamming device has been added with a reduction in the bonus for both standard and improved equipment units. So now you can see what this also does. Plus 1.5 seconds or 2 seconds if used in the right slot for both the duration of the enemy vehicle being spotted and your vehicle being less time spotted. Previously it was up to 4 seconds and up to -4 seconds. I already made an episode about the crazy build where you were able to keep enemy vehicles spotted for up to 18 seconds, which was just how crazy was that, right? And finally, Commander's Vision System increased the bonus for standard equipment. The effect of panoramic triplex has been added with a reduction in the bonus for standard equipment. Ladies and gentlemen, this is how the new Commander's Vision System looks like. One equipment unit gives you up to -12.5% to concealment of moving enemy vehicles and -20% to concealment of enemy vehicles behind foliage, so behind the bushes, behind the trees and so on. So they basically combined some of the equipment units, got rid of many equipment units, basically making the equipment 2.0 less complex. But at the same time I can see many equipment units being a lot better than they previously were. So less complex and better, is that the combination we are after? Because I really liked the theory crafting, I liked building some crazy things, and this, you can be sure, ladies and gentlemen, you better smash that subscribe button with notification bell right now, because you can be sure I am going to come up with some crazy things, and I'm going to show them on YouTube and on Twitch as well. So stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen, for sure. Crazy builds coming up. But is this what you would like to see as well? And what do you think about my idea of them adding one mandatory slot, then one categorized but free slot, and one universal option? for this locking system in the comments down below. Ladies and gentlemen, that is me done with today's episode. I really do hope you enjoyed it, because if you did, you are in luck. If you like today's episode, someone is going to kiss you in the next 48 years. Ladies and gentlemen, that is me done. Stay awesome, stay sexy, take care, and bye.